I gathered you around this performance to witness. I like to pretend we're kind of in a movie, a story. I like the narrator's voice. This is a journey through something that I expect to see at some point, but it can only be unleashed once one engages with it wholeheartedly. Although beginnings always have the beginning in itself, like a never-ending story. The story lies in the source that's the narrator, and if his plan is drenched with care and love, you won't ever have to fear ends, as it will be complete and not lacking anything. May that be your faith and mine as I start unfolding the story at the point where you asked me to be here. In my performances, I am looking for the core of things, and then somewhere in that quest I found the core in the center of the stage, like a behind the scene, if I would read out what drives me to do this performance. It's like an equation behind the mechanisms of the movements of motivation. The performances I make are a sort of mapping of the present, and they are created along the path, situational and relational. They trace down the motivations and how we got here, the heart of the substance of that what the performance is for, a reassembling of that what makes the performance existing. I write them whilst collecting lived experience all the way up to the day of the performance. It is a collaboration between me and the ones who have requested the performance, or in this case, I offered the performance. The relationship is the starting point to work from. I am reusing fragments out of my previous performances, assemble them again, and I am taking fragments of conversations or notes from observations I make. Maybe you will see a bit of you passing along. They're kinda like code, or a root system, all connected. I think I can look into the code, the roots, the underlayers, the cores. We created Skogen as we started to understand that a lot of our recurring existential crises were due to structural problems. How to respond when the arts turns into accelerating amounts of temporary projects and a never-ending fast food consumption of ideas and products. How to work, live and learn in neoliberal times without being hijacked into a logic of branding, capitalization, attention, exposure, faster and more, and again and again. In many ways, Skogen and the school is an attempt to deal with our longing for something different. A place where we can be together inside of that which cannot be easily understood and articulated. A place where we will not be subject to paralyzing ideas of efficiency, of being measured and evaluated, of having to be immediately accessible. We long for a room where our curiosity is not instrumentalized, where artistic processes are not immediately packaged into commercial and palatable formats. A room where our words are not degraded by the pseudo language of self-management and project descriptions. All of this might be impossible, but we decided to stay with the trouble and see what comes out if we give it a try. I'm weaving the fabric of me, this place, the ones who came here. I'm searching for, the end. Someone said, I can use all things waxing together for good. What is good? And what are all things? If it isn't good, it isn't the end. I'm going through it, the same process I will map out now. That's how I made it, the performance. I am mapping out a pattern that has arisen out of my time being at Skogen and my artistic research. I will tell it in the form of a mathematical poem, a combination of some sort of scientific approach and the tools of art. It will make sense to some, but not to others, being told in this format. More articulations, translations, formulations to come. For now, this is what I offer. My first work made at Skogen was a room deconstructed, reduced to nothing. Because I was working in stores to earn a living, in this artistic project I wanted to undo myself on that. A store with no production, a D-store. What is production? Growth, contemporary economy, sharing resources. How is it being done? What effect has it on the earth, on the people? What has it done to us? How are we doing it? Organizing distribution of goods, knowledge, assets. I came to the soil, to zero. Why was I so fascinated to come to the roots? A few years later I moved to Gothenburg because there was something so compelling in the soil here in Skogen, calling me. I came with a research, some kind of strange intuition and a strong passion. I was looking for the core of things and was fascinated by crossing dimensions. In my vision I felt there were more layers, alternatives, realities. I started to use my performances to trace the layers we are existing in. That is where the crossing started. I was welcomed, maybe expected, waited for. I longed for this kind of soil. There was an encounter, deep and intimate. There is this dot extending into a square. The square is the screen, extending out of the screen into the room, to the sides infinitely, up to the heavens, down into the ground. 3-dimensional. The fourth dimension is how it projects itself into itself. The real tesseract isn't shaped like the inner projection. The inner projection is a very distorted image of the original tesseract. All of the edges you see in the image are actually the same length as each other, and all angles between edges are right angles. It is a way to view it, the original and the projection, or the parallel of the original, or parallel projection into realm space. But trying to view a tesseract shows the difficulties in portraying objects from tetraspace within the limitations of realm space. There is an extra perpendicular direction that we can depict within our own space without distorting the original object. Because of these problems, it takes many examples in order to begin understanding the nature of the fourth dimension. The space is a doorway, right? When crossing borders, one has to leave behind something. I noticed that the crossing had two main elements, old and new, here and there, old skin, new skin, a hinge, a door, opening, closing. After a while, I was becoming more and more involved into Skogen. I think I saw a pattern, the longing to leave behind unsustainable production, an exhaustion coming from the feeling to have to produce, continuously creating a pressure. This pressure, it seems, to wear you out, to drain, and after being spun by it enough, underlyingly, you suddenly wonder, for whom am I doing all this? What am I chasing? What is it? What is happening? As I'm tired and I seem to forget where we were. Where are the others? Have I been speaking to them? Have I actually met them? How can we see too that things stay resilient? What makes it exploitative? What is it that robs us? What is exploiting us? How can we share resources, fair, honest, tender, just, but care for our whole being, all beings? The exhaustion is like a desert. Going to the core of things gave me opportunity to see truth. Now, the crossing cannot be done without a lush promise, a vision, a realized utopia. Just before the pandemic came, there was a small self-combusted fire. Then came the plague, which provided a space for the dreams, the visions, a chance for a change to a deeper reorganization of the venue. All that was usual, the habits, and the busyness, was now disrupted, interrupted, creating an opportunity to look more closely into the flow, the order of things, to see what was getting stuck, and to see where to change. Without the promise, you will not have enough fuel, power, driving force. To do the crossing, you will have to look at certain places. You will have to look for the signs. A parallel, to place a thing in itself, or a thing in a thing, like Skogen in a forest, is a rich place to see cracks in reality. Places where opposition is at its largest tend to serve well as indicators. Their words highly unlikely and repellent. Isn't it there where the dragon hides its biggest treasure chest? It requires an unlearning from that what we thought to be true. It is beyond understanding, but there will be a lot of very understandable reasons trying to persuade you not to enter into the unknown. It will try and intimidate you away. Here is where you'll have to trust. Crossing means leaving behind the old, stepping into the new. When the pandemic became globally manageable, and Skogen could open its door fully again, there was suddenly the flood. For months on end, there was a water leak in the building, and we needed to evacuate to the highest floor. In the pandemic disruption, new ways have been formulated, but now that was forced to wait, to be integrated, and to be worked with. Almost like something needed to be washed out first. The old skin. In the prospect of leaving behind the old for the new to come in, I don't know, but I haven't seen this happening without the process of grief and the experience of pain and seeing the old in a new light and realizing, did that happen to me? Did I do that to them? This is where it hurts you to acknowledge that this was the reality, but we didn't know any better back then. There is guilt, shame, powerlessness. There is damage done. There are wounds. Forgiveness is the key to unlocking into the new land. Then you can prune up dead branches that you got attached to, those that took away energy for blossoming and healing. After the crossing you have arrived, there is the new reality. Yet, for some reason, it isn't fixed or controlled once you're on it. You cannot impose a way of life. You can live in the new order. The living itself is the new reality. How you yourself rule and serve. You'll have to tend your terrain, like in permaculture. A cultivation that isn't manipulating and dominating. A cultivation that honors the land and those upon it. You will have to let go of control, but you'll have to insist on not let it colonized with the old that causes exhaustion and exploitation. You will have to protect what needs to be protected. You will have to guard it, the heart of it, your heart, and these of others. Harvesting a new reality is maybe not harvesting a new thing, but the same thing being in a new shape. A reclamation of that which was broken, stolen, twisted, devoiced, diminished, made invisible, neglected, abused, held captive, famished, restrained, dead. It's like being born again. An actual promise, not just a carrot hanging in front of the horse to get the poor fool pulling the wagon, but an actual existence of the end, the harvest, when there is a big table, an abundant dinner, enough for everyone, not too much, nor too little, nothing wasted, nothing lacking. Good.